Good afternoon, everyone. Looks like we're just at 1 o'clock, so we're going to get started here. Welcome to the second installment in our Kickstart Your Federal Career webinar series. Today's event will be focused on effective interviewing techniques. My name is Stephen Vu, and I'm a marketing and communications specialist at the USPTO and the Office of Human Resources. I'm joined here today with my fellow Office of Human Resources teammate, Senior Human Resources Specialist Latoya Harper-Williams. Please note that today's session is being recorded. For any questions, please use the chat. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can. Next slide, please. In today's webinar, we'll be going over how to prepare for an interview, understanding the importance of explaining how your talents and skills relate to the job, answering questions using the STAR method, and on-demand video interviewing. Next slide. And before we begin, we have some questions for you. We'd really appreciate if you'll take just a moment to answer the poll that's appearing on your screen. It really helps us to know how you got here. How did you hear about this event? Check all that apply. Your options are social media, email, career services, the USPTO website, a current USPTO employee, handshake, USA Jobs, or other. And we'll just give you about a minute to answer that question. Looks like our poll is concluded, and most of you came here either through USA Jobs or through email. That's great to hear. Next slide. We just have one more poll question for you before we jump into the content of today's event. We'd love to learn how confident you are in your interviewing skills. We're hoping that by the end of today's event, you're at least moderately confident in your skills. I'll just give you another minute to answer those questions. Looks like our poll questions have finished. Looks like most of you are at least moderately confident, which is great. So I hope by the end of this webinar, you'll be in the very or extremely confident area. And with that, I'll hand it over to Latoya.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Hi, everyone. So he already told you who I am, Latoya Harper-Williams in the Enterprise Training Division and Human Resources. So today I'm going to go through a few slides about interviewing. So I'm going to make it, just sit back, enjoy the ride. If you have me for resume training, you know I'm really, really personable. So I'm going to give you some information and hopefully we can get you really, 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 really highly confident. So let's begin. Before your interview, yes, before, I need you to really prepare. You're welcome for the opportunity. I see that. So I need you to really prepare. Think about possible interview questions. And hint, hint, when I tell you that, we have Google, all kinds of resources we can get them from. So you might want to pull some most frequently asked questions, questions that you might see, all kinds of things. So I know that prep teams do them, all of that. So you might want to do that, but don't forget, think about possible interview questions. And one famous one is tell me about yourself. And they usually want you to do this, but not tell everything. Kind of start with kind of like where you were, how you've gotten where you are, and kind of like the outcome of what's happening now. So you kind of want to look at the questions, but it does not hurt to prepare and practice. So I'm going to go through some more things. The next bullet talks about how does your experience relate to the job? So we need to really, really look at this. Okay. When I talk about my resume trainings and we talk about resumes and we kind of really go through and we deal with people and we look at different things, we talk about this. And we talk about whatever you're applying for, you're going to hopefully get that interview, right? Make it up there and get that interview. So we want to know some key things. The first one, review the job duties and requirements, right? We want to make sure that we are really doing that. Is it something we're looking forward to doing? Is it something that we can do? And we get to the interview, are we going to have enough information to tell them? So, here in a minute, I'm going to get to some more information that tells you how to do that with some personal success stories. The next one, what are some traits that relate to job duties and requirements? So we kind of want to go through. I tell people, go ahead and jot down those notes, talk about traits that relate to this. What's related to these job duties? What requirements are they looking for? What can you say that you have based off of the announcement? It's very, very important to prepare so that we can get as much information as possible. And when I did the resume training, I talked about the specialized experience. That's one place to start. Go on the job duties and all of these different things. Make sure you're doing that. So it takes me to the next one. Write down examples of your experience. This matters. Now, you don't have to write down examples of every single thing. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about whatever you're applying to. Let's get some relevant examples. This is going to help you by writing them down, going through them, practicing, maybe practicing with someone else. So that way, when it's time to interview, if you're asked a question about giving an example of something, you have something prepared. That's why we're saying do that. So make sure you're writing those examples and experiences down. And next, how does your experience relate to the listed duties requirements? So you see where I'm going here? How does your experience relate to it? Make it relevant. What are we looking for? What are we really going for? So how do we relate it to what we're trying to apply for? Very important. I talk a lot about tailoring your resume. Yeah, making sure that you have some things that you're applying for when you get the interview. Okay. A lot of interviewing questions. You're going to see me go over a STAR method here in a minute. A lot of interviewing questions are kind of behavioral. You have some that are asking more specific questions, but you want to have personal things there. You want to have some things that you prepared so you're not saying the same exact thing for every example. So that's just some information there. And of course, to that last bullet, the third one, all of them are important. But that third one, practice your answers or your responses aloud. You see that? And yes, I am telling you this for a reason. We appear to do it one way, but sometimes when we practice and practice and practice, I truly believe it makes permanent. So be mindful of rambling and talking too quickly. You know, that's a skill that we all have to work on. And we kind of say, okay, am I talking too fast? Am I talking too slow? But the more we practice, I tell people, you know, get up, talk about your answers, your relevant experience, maybe practice with someone side by side, or maybe go. I'm going to say it. You might want to go in front of that mirror to see your expressions and see when you're articulating your words. Are you smiling? Are you clear? Things like that. But we really do recommend these, right? So don't worry. Before your interview, just remember these key three things. Think about possible interview questions. So we want to go in, we want to think about it. Number one, and I gave you the information below. Number two, how does your experience relate to the job? So you're applying, you want to interview, of course. So how does your experience relate to the job? What can you bring? What's relevant? And then number three, don't forget to practice your responses aloud. So this is all in preparation before the interview. Very important. Very important. Research brings me to the next one. Yes, research is extremely important as well. Inform yourself about the job, role, and organization. All right, I'll stop for 1 second. I'll let you get ready. Awesome. Okay. And so, again, I'll repeat inform yourself about the job, role, and organization. Find out these key things. What are the job functions and competencies? Oh, yes, y'all. Oh, yes, everyone. Told you, I'm going to keep it real in the training, right? What are the job functions? Let me first make sure, can I do this? Is it really something I want to do? Let me be prepared for these job functions. We know things can change, things can be flexible, things can alter. We know that. But let me prepare as much as possible. And the competencies. How am I going to show that I'm competent to do this? So what I want to do is prepare, show I'm competent. And that goes back to my first slide where I say prepare. Get everything you need, go through, write relevant examples, all of the information above. Make sure you're doing that. So functions, job functions, and competencies. Make sure you read, you know what you're going to do, what's pretty much asked of you, and how are you competent? How are you competent to know how to move forward? And what competencies are you bringing in the information? So you want to have that with relevant examples showing that you can do the job functions. Next, what the organization does and who they serve. Oh, yes. Come on, everyone. We have to goes back to the research. Research, review. Make sure you know whatever the organization does, make sure you know what they do and who they serve. So, hint, hint, mission statements, strategic goals, what plans do they have? Research all of this information so that you are well prepared. Next one. What is happening at the organization? Oh, yes, I like to review. I know I like to look around, see what's going on so I can stay in the now and know what to do. But what's happening at the organization? You might just get this interviewing question at the end. They might ask you, what do you know about the agency? Or you might tell them up front. So you want to kind of know what's happening at that organization. And finally, what's new in the field? Oh, yes, I said it. What's new in the field? If they're doing some kind of IT project or something that they're enhancing, what's new in the field? We might read about it and know more about it. And you just never, ever know in your interview how you're able to expand and ask other things where you can actually shed light or, talk about some of these things. So we want to do our research as much as possible. Okay. Now, I like to do a quick check. I have a lot of people on here, right? And I love this. So give me a quick check in the chat. Just tell me it's making sense or something. I see some questions coming through. Don't worry. Stephen is collecting all of them for me, so I'll answer as many as I have time for. But go ahead. All right, come on. Is it making sense? All right, this is good. So I'm going to keep going because I want to try to give you enough information to help you my job where I really want to be. All right, nail that interview, right? So I'm gonna give you as much as I can. So let me keep going. Okay, it's making sense. All right, I see some things coming up. All right, that's what I'm talking about. So here we go. Now, if you're taking notes, Stephen will let you know. I do believe we're gonna give you some information, right? But if you're taking notes, take these notes, right? I'm gonna go slow on this one. Prepare personal stories. Now, I'm not talking about my personal stories where I, went here, went there, but listen to what I'm saying. Prepare personal stories. Reading just a little bit. First bullet, be prepared to share 3 to 5 personal stories. That's relatable, right? That you can say relate to your job duties and your qualifications. Get ready, because here you go. You can take it from me. You're going to be asked some questions where give me a time when this happened or a time when something like this happened. Can you share? You want to get these personal stories together so in the interview, you're not rambling. You have already prepared, and I'm not saying memorize everything, but know enough so you can shine and you can tell your story, right? So, in a minute, the second bullet talks about the STAR method, right? To answer questions. So, you can see on my slide, we're going to talk about the STAR method in a minute. And I'm going to give you an example. And I'm going to go slow so you can really take some notes, right? So, make sure you're following a pattern that helps you stay in line with your questions so that you're answering them fully, giving all the information that's needed, and you're not missing anything. And next, include specific details about your actions and the results of your actions. Now, this is what I'm going to tell you. This is what I mean. You have to answer the question, right? Give them information, but sometimes you have an outcome and you want the outcome is going to be either not good, maybe good, but it's okay. You can talk about lessons learned. So that's why we say include specific details about your actions. Tell me enough meat and potatoes to give me what I need to be like, okay, I understand. Because remember, we may not know everything, or whoever's interviewing may not know everything, but if I'm giving enough meat and potatoes, hey, I got it. Then I can talk about my results, whether it was the lessons learned, whether it was an action we took, whatever it is. Okay. That's why I have a special note, and I'm going to read that note. It says, if the results of your actions were not positive, be prepared to explain lessons learned and how you would move forward in the future. Yes, because you're showing how, hey, there was a problem, but yet and still, I'm bringing a solution. I'm going to say that again. That sounded real good. Write this down. Yet, there was a problem, but I'm going to show you how I'm bringing a solution, and I'm going to tell you how I did that in my lessons learned. So don't forget to prepare personal stories. Okay, personal stories. Now let's move on to the STAR method. So this is just a format. We have a car method. There's other methods out there, but we have one that we say, hey, maybe this will help. First, in the STAR method, there's a situation. It says, describe the task or situation you need to accomplish. So this is where you're telling me in the interview, whatever the question is, what happened? What's the situation? What am I trying to convey that you might understand? Okay, get it to you. So what's my situation? The task. What was the goal? It may be more than one goal. First, you tell me the situation or what the situation is. Then you tell me the task or goal that you're trying to accomplish or whatever it was. So you're doing that. Okay. Next, think of actions as steps. Next, you have actions. Describe what actions you took. You're just giving it to me piece by piece. Remember, and I'm going to say this. So write this down, everyone. You're being interviewed, but you're also interviewing them. Let me say that again. You are being interviewed, but you're also interviewing them, which means we're taking down things, we're writing things. So in the STAR method, you are painting a picture for me. So you're describing the actions you took. And so there may be a step one, there may be a step two, step three, so forth. Or you may just tell me in a paragraph form what you did, but what actions were taken, right? What actions were taken. As a result, then we go on to the result. What were the outcomes of your actions? We want the high positive actions, right? We want that. But if not, we're going to give them some lessons learned because we learned something from it. And we know we can tell you our next action plan and what we learned and how we're going to move forward with a solution. Highly important as well. So, depending on what it is, it depends on that. Okay. So, this is the STAR method. Okay, another quick check. Give me a thumbs up if it's making sense. And I promise we're seeing all your questions. I promise. I will not miss a question. It will go through. We'll be answering, whether we answer it here or whatever else, but they will be answered. Yes. Okay, awesome. So remember STAR method. Okay, I'm getting them. Okay, we're good. I'm good. Now let's go on to the next slide. Example question. Describe a situation where you had to solve a problem. I'm willing to bet you may not get the problem exactly like that, but you're going to get it some kind of way, right? They're going to be asking you to give them some information. Okay, makes sense. So describe a situation where you had to solve a problem. I'm going to take a pause. I know I can't see all responses. You don't have to type them or you don't have to chat them, but just think about this question. Let it resonate. Describe a situation where you had to solve a problem. What did you do and what was the result? There we go. Come on, STAR method. What did you do and what was the result? Don't worry. Kind of just think about it to your mind for a second. We're just going through to go through and just seeing all this information. I'm just trying to make it resonate with you. Okay. Because don't worry, Latoya has an example. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to give you what I got for you. Right. So let me move on. Bam. There we go. The STAR method. Okay. So STAR example response. Here we go. I'm going to go slow. So you can sink it in and you can take it in. But here is a STAR example response. Didn't I tell you first? Situation. There we go. Advertising revenue was falling off for my college newspaper. The review and large numbers of long-term advertisers were not reviewing contracts. There we go. You're interviewing with me or whoever it is, panel person, whatever it is, you're interviewing and you're going through and you have explained the situation clear and concise. Remember these three words, and I will type them in the chat. Let's see if I can do that. First, we have to care about anything we do, right? So we have caring. The next thing we're going to have is clarity, being clear, and consistency, right? I use these in a lot of trainings. They're the three positive C's of communication. When we care about what we do, we bring our best foot forward and we're ready. When we use clarity, we try to find every possible way to be as clear as possible. And then we're consistent in our answers all throughout. Okay, so think about those three C's. So this situation was clear. I take it. Okay, average, you work for some kind of advertising company, revenue is going down on the college newspaper. You're trying to figure out what to do, some contractual stuff's going on. Okay, we got it. Situation. Next, task. My goal, the team's goal, whatever the goal is, was to generate new ideas. Okay, you're telling me your task, what you're doing, materials and incentives that would result in at least a 15% increase in advertising from the year before. So we got it. We got the situation, we have the task at hand, all of these different things there. And we know you're trying to raise revenue. Okay, got it. You had a goal in place. So that means you prepared. I can tell in your response, you prepared, you took time to look over it, and you knew what to do to generate new ideas, innovation, creativity to try to raise revenue, right? There we go. Now let's look at the action. I designed, the team designed, we designed, whatever it is, however it was done, a new promotional packet to go with the rate sheet. So we're thinking about some things there, a promotional packet to go with the rate sheet and compare the benefits of the review circulation, all of that within the media in the area, right? And you also set up special training sessions, all right? Special training sessions for the account executives with the School of Business Administration professor who discuss competitive selling strategies. So what I hear in this message as an interviewer is first, you came up with a promotional packet with a rate sheet. So you brainstormed and you went through some ideas, etc. Then you review with the media and all these things, whoever you to do in your area. Then you had a special training session, probably more, to come up with some strategies. So you've involved things to do this action. Now, let's go to the result. Then we signed contracts with 15 former advertisers for daily ads and 5 for special supplements. We did that. We increased our new advertisers by 20% over the same period last year. Bingo. So this one had positive results and you went up more than 15%, 20%, bingo. But if it had not have been, maybe the lessons learned would have been to add more to the actions and involve more people, whatever it is. But it's still a good example to talk about how you would explain your question. Again, by giving the situation, the task at hand, the action, and the results. Okay? So again, does this make sense? Was this example clear? And remember, we're doing overall interviewing. When you want interviews to relate specifically to you, you can use these examples to come up with situations that's probably within your range or within your field to kind of give an example, but break it down by the situation, the task, the action, and the result. Okay. So I'm going to give very generic things that you can do, but we can always, they can be applicable to what we're doing, but make sure that we tailor it to that the same way I would tell people in the resume trainings. Okay. So just giving an example of how it can be broken down. It can be broken down in many different ways, but as long as that's why it's STAR, as long as we're painting the picture and we're giving the situation, we're talking about the task at hand, and we're talking about the actions we took and whatever the result may be, whether it's positive or negative, but showing how we can resolve a problem and move forward in the situation. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, now let's go on to during your interview. During your interview, everybody, the first thing I'm going to talk about is make eye contact with everyone or the camera. So if you're doing a virtual interview, I'm looking directly in the camera. Yeah, I can't see my 2, 3, 400 plus people. That's great. I can see the numbers, right? But I'm looking directly in the camera and I'm just picturing I see. This is what I have to do. If I'm in person, I'm going to make sure I look and acknowledge every person during the interview, names, things like that. But I'm going to make sure that I'm, moving around to make sure they know and where I'm responding. But just make sure you're making that eye contact. This has not changed, so we want to make sure that the camera make sure you're looking directly in it, positioning yourself, and you're ready for the interview. Because remember, that just shows a more personal touch, and it appears that you're looking up at them. Okay, excellent. The second one, smile when applicable, right? So personalities do shine. You have to know when to give a little bit, when to not to give a little bit. I'm gonna always be myself, and I'm gonna make it shine in my interview, or just shine when I'm speaking. So when applicable, sometimes they say the more you spread out, the more you articulate your words better. It comes with your expression. So just remember, when applicable, make sure that we are giving a smile. I'm not saying overdo it, but give that smile when it's applicable. Consider writing down the question. I get lots of responses to this, right? Here we go. Let me tell you the answer. In the interview, when you start, they're going to usually ask you, do you have any questions for us? Yes, have a question. It is okay. And one question may be, is it okay if I really, really write down a question? Or is it okay if in the interview, if I'm writing on notepad, they may say yes. Some questions are 2 and 3 parts now. And so come on, I can't remember everything. So some questions are that. So you might want to ask, can you jot down some notes? If it's virtual, and you've practiced, then you might want to have some notes on your computer on the side. People do that, or either they say in the virtual ones, is it okay if I look down for a minute? I'm just taking a note. Okay, more than likely they'll say yes, but consider writing down the question after they ask. Make sure you ask them. That may be a good strategy, but I definitely would ask. Then also, that fourth bullet says ask the interviewers to repeat the question if necessary. Yes, if they're giving you 2 and 3 part questions, do not waste your time trying to memorize everything they're saying. Just try to ask that question. Can I jot it down for a second? Can you repeat the question to go back over that question? That's not a problem. But try to do that as much as possible so that you can make sure you're answering every part of the question and keep the answer relevant. Keep it extremely relevant. You want to stick to the question, stick to the answer. That's why we say before the interview, prepare. So you're not rambling and coming up with things that are not relevant to the question that's being asked. Okay, so make sure that you're doing that. Then we say answer the question. Give examples again. You see, I keep repeating it that are relevant to the question. I already told you about clarity. Be clear and concise. Do not ramble and speak slowly. Not like this, but speak at a normal pace and speak slowly. And of course, don't forget to breathe. Okay. You can breathe in between questions. You can take your time. You can take the responses, making sure that you're answering them very accurately and efficiently. Okay. So make sure that you're doing that. Right. So here we go. So this is some tips that we do give during your interview. Okay, during your interview. Okay, I want to stop for another quick pause. Is it still making sense? And I'm seeing lots of questions coming in. I may be here all night long now. But it's still making sense. I'll give a little bit of there. Just like to have a little fun here. We're doing training, but we're also learning as well. And it's good to add a little personality in there. Okay. So during your interview, making sense. I see them coming in. I'm feeling real good today. Okay, great. Now we want to get to ask questions of the employer. Okay, let me break this one down. Let me break it down. Prepare 1 to 2 questions for the hiring team. Come on, y'all. They're interviewing you, but you're interviewing them. Okay? I'm telling you, I'm going to say that again. Let me say it twice. They are interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them. I will be honest. I've sat in some interviews halfway through. I'm like, I don't care if I am offered. That's not the right fit for me. And it's okay. Because sometimes you're there for practice. Practice. I believe practice makes permanent. So just remember, prepare 1 to 2 questions for the hiring team. Example, I'm giving you one. I can only give you so much, right? I'm doing the best I can. I can't give you everything, but I'll give you an example. What qualities would the ideal candidate have? Oh, bingo. Here we go. They've taken you through a list, I'm going to say approximately 10 questions. Don't know if it was a hiring team, whatever it was, but they've taken you through this list. They've asked you questions, right? So at the end, it's a good fact check. When you ask them this question and they tell you, that's how you can examine. Did I say some of those answers? Oh, that may be a good sign. Okay. So if you can go back and ask them, what qualities would the ideal candidate have? See what they tell you. And then in your mind, you can be preparing to see, right? And I do see this question, I'll just because it's relevant to this. The questions they may ask you, sometimes it could be more. There's no real answer on how many they can ask you, depends on how long the interview is. So, but we want to go through that. But make sure what qualities would the ideal candidate have. Okay? So just make sure that's one. Then the second bullet talks about information again on the company's or organization's website can help you develop questions to ask at the end of the interview. See, go back in there, use their website, their information to pull things in for you. Use your resources. Let me say that again. I'm going to say it twice. Use your resources. Use your resources. I'm saying it on purpose because things are not just plopped on places for a reason. And so I tell people all the time, stop trying to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes things are there right in our face. Go back and research, right? So good. I'm going to read that bullet again. Information on the company's or organization's website can help you develop questions to ask at the end of the interview. So use that. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The next one. Asking a well researched question at the end of an interview is a great way to leave a good impression. I like to say, when you give that first impression, bingo, you got it, right? I'm on this webinar talking. I love doing these things. I love helping people. You probably like, yay, good. She's here. Come on, talk, give it to us. So I'm going to say some great things, but I'm also going to put that there. I'm trying to leave a very good first impression. And this is what you do. Okay. So when you have a well researched question at the end, you can leave a good first impression. And that's what we want to do anytime we're doing anything, right? Anything. No, there's not a maximum number of questions you should ask, but I would just be aware of time, depending on how long they tell you an interview is, things like that. If they're saying it's 30, 45 minutes, you don't want to just be asking questions over 10 questions, and it's a time frame they're given, so be aware. But there's not really a maximum. But if I had to say, maybe 1 to 3 questions, as long as they're relevant to what you're trying to know. Okay. So here we go. After your interview, very good tip here. It says consider sending a short, grammatically correct thank you email within 24 hours. I'm going to say, yeah, you probably want to do this, okay? You probably want to do this. You probably want to make sure that you're doing this interview is going through and you're sending that thank you note, right? So here is an example thank you letter. So what you want to do is thank them and compliment their work. Yeah, you're going to put it back on them. You're going to compliment their work, make sure things are there, but you want to thank them and compliment their work as you're doing things. Remind them why you are the best candidate. Why am I the best one for the job? Now, I don't have to put every single thing in there, but I want to give a little information. I want to remind them why I'm the best one, why I can do that. Just kind of give a little reminder based off of what I probably said in my interview. And then, of course, do a very, very polite closing. And, of course, sign it. Okay. So this is just an example. I'm giving you an example, and I'm sure everything will be shared here today. So I'm giving you what I can give you to get you started on this interviewing process, right? Now, I saw some questions here, right? So I want to make sure I give you a lot of detailed information as I do the next two slides, okay? So this is called on-demand video interviewing. Yes, at the USPTO. We sometimes use a virtual on demand video interviewing platform to conduct our interviews. Oh, yeah. Okay. The platform is asynchronous. That means it's strictly online and it allows candidates to film an interview on their own time. Woo. Which can be outside of regular business hours. Let me say that again, outside of regular business hours. So if you receive an invitation for this type of interview, pay close attention to the window of time you have to complete the interview. So, woo, so this can be done. So it's called on demand video interviewing. Now, again, moving forward, on demand video interviewing best practices. Let me give you some best practices. Let's see what we have here. Make sure you review that platform and you are very familiar with the process. When you receive your invitation to complete your interview, you can click the link and become comfortable with the platform without completing your interview. So, oh man, they're giving me some practice time. I'm gonna be A-okay. All right, yes. Then don't forget, take advantage of the practice questions. The platform the USPTO uses has practice questions available. Go USPTO. Take advantage of these so you can get familiar with the platform. So don't forget that. All right. Moving on. Next, be prepared between questions. Didn't I say be prepared? Ask your questions, be ready for them. So be prepared between questions. Have your resume and talking points in front of you, woo, that you can refer to between questions. So, what a treat. You can have your resume, any other talking points in front of you while you're rehearsing and practicing. Come on now. And again, like I keep reiterating, look into the camera while filming your interview. Make sure you do that. Similar to a regular interview, like I've been saying, right? And so looking into the camera will definitely help the individual with reviewing the interview feel connected. So I want to do this so I can look into this camera and I feel connected. Like I feel connected with you all and I can't even see you, but this is awesome. So I feel connected to give this information. The thumbs up gives me affirmation. I'm like, okay, I'm on target. So you want to do that. And again, finally, concluding, know what is available to you depending on the question and position. Let me say that again. Depending on the question and position, you may be able to film your responses if you do not like your answers. Oh, shucks, this is a treat. I might just have to go in there and practice myself even more, right? But just know what's available to you and know depending on the question and position, you may be able to film your responses if you do not like your answers. Okay? So I want to go back over a few things before I turn it back over to Stephen. I hope that this was very helpful. I've given you as much as I can give you, and I want to make sure that people are utilizing some things. But I will summarize by saying prepare before that interview. Prepare. Practice looking in the camera. Practice reviewing things. Make those personal, what did I call them? I'm going to go back a little bit on my slide so I can highlight it. Okay. Make sure you're going to go through here. Personal, prepare personal stories. Make sure that you do have them so that you're not rambling in the interview and you're not trying to figure out, oh, I got to give another example. You already have them. Okay. So make sure you're really, truly doing that information and you're going forward from there. But all of this information, prepare those 1 to 2 questions for your actual employer. Make sure, and I will leave you with the final tip before I send it over and we go to some information and questions and answers. The final tip is this: review, prepare, align your job duties to what you're going to say, and make sure you're really ready, okay? Because remember, you're interviewing them just like they're interviewing you. So I'll leave it with that, but always remember that tip. So back to you, Stephen. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Latoya. That was excellent. So we just have one more poll question before we jump into the Q&A. After attending today's event, how prepared are you for your next interview? And then we'll give you a minute to answer those. And the poll is over, and looks like most of you have moved into at least moderately prepared, which is great. Looks like Latoya did a great job today. Next slide. And if you have any additional questions after today's webinar, you can reach out to us at recruitment@uspto.gov. I also encourage you all to follow us on social media, where you can receive updates on employment opportunities at our agency, as well as see cool content on intellectual property. Next slide. And if you'd like to apply to work at America's Innovation Agency, you can scan this QR code or follow this link to view open vacancies. And now we've reached the Q&A part of this webinar. I just want to say, for housekeeping, I have seen a lot of questions about your specific applications, whether it be within the USPTO or outside. If you have any specific questions about your scenario, I recommend reaching out to the HR specialist that's listed on your job announcement. So if you scroll down to the bottom, there's going to be contact information listed there. They would be able to know better than we can. Another question is about, I'm seeing a lot of patent examiner related questions. Latoya and I, we work in the Office of Human Resources, but we don't work on that side of it. So if you have any questions about that as well, you can also reach out to join USPTO@uspto.gov. They'll be more equipped to answer your questions. And with that, let's just start with the questions. So the first one is about time management during the interview. So, like you said, Latoya, you prepare your bullets ahead of time. You might have a long list of things to talk about each personal story. How do you manage to keep it brief, so you're not rambling and you're managing your time properly during the interview?
Thank you, Stephen. Great question, everyone. I'm going to go back to it. Practice the STAR method or something similar. It is a tremendous help. I will use my personal story. Even when I was hired as a senior specialist here, I used an approach similar, and I was able to have my situations or whatever my responses were and go through that. So I gave enough information. I went through the next thing, and gave the result. And that way I knew I had I've given concise answers. So I would definitely say stick to that. There's no wrong or right thing you can do, but if you know you're a person, and we know ourselves, right? If you know, start with you, that you ramble, you go on, start practicing with people who you trust or people that you know, and go practice and start doing the STAR method for different stories and telling your story and see if you give enough information. But I would definitely say stick to that STAR method or something similar.
Great. The next question is about doing research on the organization or company beforehand. How do you suggest going about this? Is the website the only good place to find out what's going on, or can you find out in other mediums what's going on in the agency?
Excellent question. I would definitely say start with their website. Okay. I know here at the USPTO we have what I like to call like our little newspaper. We can look and find things. Okay, our PTO web. So you can start, and depending on the agency you're looking for, start with the website, right? It's sometimes when you get the call for the interview, you might have someone who calls you directly or email you directly. So sometimes it's okay if you want to ask them, hi, I've reviewed your website. Is there something else I should review? And I've seen people do that and get good responses, and they've sent them other links and things like that. And I also know some agencies now, they're sending information ahead of time if you want to review. So make sure you do that. But definitely start with the website. That should give you your your to go place.
Excellent. So this one's about how to describe your experience when you're freshly out of school. I know for our patent examiner jobs, a lot of these people are college students who just graduated. So how can you convey your experience relevant to the role when you're freshly out of school?
Hey, Stephen. You come on, Stephen. You give me that great answer. I'm so glad that they are preparing a lot of jobs now for, recent grads. So what they're doing when you start doing your resume, send it in, you can prepare answers like from volunteer work, things you may have done from internships to say that. So it's the reason now we're doing more information. I've been seeing more hiring with that so that they know that you're only going to have limited experience. So but I would always say anything you do voluntary, get someone to sign something for you. You just experience, right? Any internships, anything you can see related. But if it's a job, sometimes you get in the interview, They may ask you just basic questions to see, hey, how you fit in, things like that. So you may get basic generic questions where you're able to answer some relatable things that may be to the job or just some things in general that they just may ask you. You can show what you would do. So I would take it from that approach. And that's always a good approach to take it because I know a lot of recent grads who've gotten in just like that. So that should be good.
Great advice, Latoya. I'm seeing a lot of questions on whether we're going to distribute these slides or when the video is going to be up on the USPTO website. We'll try to get this onto the YouTube channel as soon as possible. You will receive a follow-up email from us if you attended today's event, and it will include the link. So be on the lookout for that. I also see people asking about a resume workshop. So we did have one a couple months ago, and that's also on the USPTO YouTube channel. So go ahead and look for it there as well. Moving on to the next question. Someone asked, when it comes to writing the thank you letter, when it comes to reminding why you're the best candidate, how is it best to describe yourself without coming across as boastful?
Another excellent question. When you all do get it's going to be there, and I believe you said, Stephen, y'all will be distributing, if you can, the slides and things like that. So you'll get the information. Read the sample example I had, thoroughly, because it's okay. It's what I normally tell people. The safest route is just whatever you talked about in your interview. You're going to remember some things. Just kind of go back and bullet what you talked about in your interview. So you're not really coming across as boastful or anything like that. You're just kind of restating what you said in your interview, just reminding them. So like a gentle reminder of, hey, I can do X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. But that's how you can kind of do that. I would not add anything else that I possibly didn't say in the interview, but that's kind of like how we train people when they write thank you letters. Just get straight to the point, but kind of recap what actually happened in the interview as much as possible. So that's the advice we normally give people.
Great. Thank you, Latoya. I actually think we've gone through all our questions. I'm seeing a lot of questions about our on-demand videoing interviewing platform. Like I said, if you have any questions about how that platform works, if you receive an invitation to do one of these on-demand video interviews, there will be details in that email as well. I believe there is an email you can reach out to if you have questions about the specific role. I know you won't be able to talk face-to-face with someone if you have questions, so keep an eye out for those emails if you do get selected for one of those interviews. But yeah, I'm just seeing a lot of questions about people's specific situations. So I think with that, we're good to end here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Latoya, for your excellent presentation today. And thank you, Vernon, for providing our American Sign Language interpreting services today.